Sarah Sands, a mother of 5, who brutally stabbed a pedophile chomo piece of shit to death. In a case where the system not only failed her, it helped a pedophile offend on children for over 24 years. Due to a loophole in the law where if a chomo changes his name, he no longer has to come on the registry. He can get passports, driver's license, and doesn't even have to register under his new name. Sarah Sands, she's a mother of 5, fell on hard times, gets enrolled in a government program that allows her to get rental assistance in these apartments. Yet, as Sarah would find out, as so many of us before, whether you're living in a trailer or you're living in a penthouse, these chomos, these pedophiles, these predators, they're like cockroaches. They hide and they sneak into every crevice of our entire existence. She thought that this man that she was feeding, the 77-year-old man, the chomo, that her kids were working for, the grandpa figure, was just a nice guy. Yet, that nice guy, she'd end up stabbing to death 8 times. Let's get into it. Sarah Sands, a mother of 5 from East London, became widely known following her fatal stabbing of Michael Pleasted. A story as old as time with these predators. A snake never changes. It only sheds and becomes a bigger snake. Next door neighbor, the meek old man. I'll help you with your kids. I'll fix this. I'll fix that. The whole time grooming Sarah Sands and her family as they moved to their new home, also in Silvertown, months before the killing. She became friends with Michael Pleasted, the chomo, who lived on his own. He was a high-profile character on the estate, often perched on the seat outside of the newsagent, giving him contact with local residents and their children. She would go on to say, I thought he was a lovely old man. She says now, I cooked for him, look after him, always kept him company when I had the time. Remember, she kept him company, she fed him, but she wasn't feeding him food. She was feeding this demon her children. She just didn't know it yet. Michael Pleasted, the chomo, sorted the newspapers in the shop, and some children had Saturday jobs working with him. Her son Brad would ask if he could help out. He was so excited. Sands says, she says Pleasted was grooming her eldest son and gradually gaining more access to the twins. He invited the 3 boys back to his home. One evening, the twins disclosed to her that while at the flat, Pleasted had sexually assaulted them. A week later, she would see her other son visibly upset, losing weight, pulling his hair out, crying, punching the wall, and he would also reveal the same. The painful reality would hit her as her 3 sons were groomed and molested by the 77-year-old next-door neighbor chomos. She was lost. How could this man, 1, get bail, 2, go back to the house and live 5 houses away from the victims, the children? She didn't know what the fuck to do. So she immediately called the police, and they said what they always say. There's nothing we can do. We call the government agency and say, listen, this guy can't live here. This is what happened. They said, well, we can move you out of here. She couldn't believe it. She knew she had to get out of there. She was distraught. So she would move her family to her mother's house, and they would all live in a small home together. Every day, she continued to fight, going back to the house, calling the police, trying to get all the information, only to find out he was a convicted pedophile under an alias. During the court case, it emerged that Pleasted, the chomo, had changed his name from Robin Molt and was a convicted pedophile. He had 24 previous convictions for sex offending spanning 3 decades. His crimes carried jail terms, but nobody in the area, including the local council, courts, or anybody that housed him knew about his past. She couldn't believe it. She tried to report it again to the police, saying, how? He's not even supposed to be here. Again, nothing we can do. She said, well, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. They said, don't go too far. He's taking it to trial, and we're going to need your boys as witnesses. She was at a loss for words. Her children, that she failed, the system failed, and are literally benefiting a chomo, are making it even worse for those poor kids. As she was drinking 2 bottles of wine, crying, going through all the stages of pain, suffering, guilt, agony, she grabbed an 8-inch kitchen knife, the Reaper hoodie, and decided to go pay her neighbor a visit. As she got closer, there wasn't a doubt in her mind. This motherfucker changed his name, groomed my kids, betrayed me. Yet, she knew in her heart to heart it was her fault for letting this snake infiltrate her family. She would say she was going there to talk to him about not letting her kids testify. Just plead guilty, you piece of shit. Yet, on the autumn night in 2014, Sarah Sands was leaving her East London house with the hood pulled over her head. Armed with a knife, she walked to the neighboring block of the flats, to the home of an elderly man. Once there, she stabbed Michael Pleasted 8 times, and it was later described as a determined and sustained attack. He would bleed to death. What took place, only her and the chomo know, but she would go on to say, I didn't know what I was doing there. She says, I realized I made a huge mistake. He was not remorseful in any shape or form. He even went as far as saying, your children are lying. Those words echoed in her heart and her soul. The whole world froze. She would go on to say, I have the knife in my left hand. I remember he tried to grab it, and that's where she gutted him 8 times, left him to bleed to death, begging for her help on his own floor, the same place where he groomed and molested her own kids. Still maintained she did not intend to kill the chomo. A few hours later, she handed herself in at the police station with her blood-stained knife and clothing. The judge in the trial later said he did not believe she had rationally thought through what taking a knife might lead to, but added, I am sure the possibility of its use was in her mind. Sarah Sands was convicted of manslaughter rather than murder on the grounds she had lost control. She was jailed for 3.5 years, but later saw the sentence increase to 7.5 years because it was ruled too lenient. Court of Appeal judges said she had done nothing to help Pleasant, hadn't called the emergency service. And this is why they get gutted. This is why parents do what they have to do. All resources have been exhausted. You let a chomo offend for over 3 decades because he changed his name. He was able to still be around children, work with children. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody took the time to say, yo, this is who he is. He changed his name, but he's still this piece of shit, snake, chomo, scum of the earth. And not only that, when he was grooming the children and she finally found out and he was arrested, they put him right back to the same house and told her she's got to move, but not too far, because we need your kids to testify and relive every moment of the fucking terror. And then she guts this piece of shit, rightfully so, and they add more time to her prison sentence. Think about that. We must protect our children at all costs. We must prevent any of these from happening. We can never let the neighbor, the coaches, these predators ever get this close to our children. She spent nearly 4 years in prison. She would say, I'd taken the law into my own hands. I've always been raised to take responsibility for my actions. Her sons, who are now young adults, 19 and 20, they remember when as children, they learned what their mother had done. Speaking alongside their mother, they say growing up with her in prison was hard. While their mom says she has remorse about what she did, her sons are brutally honest about her actions. I thought, hats off to you, Mom. It didn't slow down the nightmares, but it gave us a sense of security because you didn't have to walk down the street thinking he was going to come around the corner. He lived literally across the road from us, Bradley adds. I could open the window over there, he says, pointing, and see his house. Reece, who is 11, will go on to say it was nice knowing that he was dead. But he adds, it didn't stop any afterthoughts. You know, we would often wake up crying, where's Mom? I think we all know what the answer is. We would all do the same. The mother, who felt nothing but pain, suffering, and betrayal, could only be mad at herself for ever believing for 1 second. This is a perfect example of when you hear about a man throwing his life away by gutting a chomo up inside a prison when he only had a couple years, because they were once that little boy that was broken apart by that system and brutally assaulted by these chomo piece of shits. The mother made many errors and will always live with that guilt. However, she will never have to live with that fear ever again, as she butchered that chomo, let him to bleed out on the floor, and did her time. Laws were changed, but like I always say, it takes this for them to say, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have them change their names and get away with it. Stay out, stay free, us.